I actually hadn't seen the first Daddy's Home until earlier this very day, and I was pleasantly surprised by it. It was sweet, it had some heart, it had some really good laughs, and overall was an enjoyable experience. The sequel, on the other hand, is kind of a different story. I'm John Hayeck, and welcome to my movie thoughts. Daddy's Home 2. So this is the sequel to 2015's Daddy's Home, and in the first Daddy's Home what happened is you had Will Ferrell being this very upbeat, positive guy who's being your average suburban dad. He's Linda Cardellini's new husband, and he's taking care of his stepkids, and then we get the original biological father, Linda Cardellini's first husband, coming back. That is Mark Wahlberg. He's this rougher guy, he looks very built and everything, he's got the goatee, he's got the long hair, he's got the leather jacket, rides a motorcycle, and he's going to show his kids how to have fun, he's going to show his family how they should be living, and show that Will Ferrell's character is just kind of like, being a little bit of a dork. And then the main kind of premise of that movie is the two of them are fighting to see which one can win out, which one's going to be the main dad or the real dad, or which one's actually going to inspire their family more. And that was a good movie. Like I said, I saw it for the first time earlier today, really enjoyed it. The second one that I just saw earlier today also isn't really that great because, okay, here's what I'm going to say. Premise-wise, the trailer of this movie looked really, really funny because what happens in this movie is you've got Will Ferrell and Mark Wahlberg being co-dads. They finally sorted out their differences. They're like, all right, we can take care of these kids. We can understand there's a balance and everything. We know how it's going to work out. We've got our dynamic down. Awesome. But now in this movie, we've got Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell's dads coming into town, so it's like Granddaddy's Home, basically. John Lithgow plays Will Ferrell's dad, and you've got Mel Gibson playing Mark Wahlberg's dad, and from then on, shenanigans ensue, and we kind of have a little bit of a mess of a movie. But okay, the premise of this movie, as I said, was really cool. The trailer looked really nice. Having John Lithgow and Mel Gibson come in seemed like a right move for the franchise. It seemed like it could have been a thing that really made things funny and didn't retread some of the same territory as the first one, and I will say this, right off the bat, the positive of this movie is Will Ferrell and John Lithgow's chemistry was incredible. You see it in the trailer a little bit. The two of them are just these like super happy people that like rile each other up in the best, most positive way possible. It was like seeing two puppies kind of like, just like tackle each other and like have fun and play and chase each other's tails. It was so magical and so funny whenever the two of them kind of had back and forths, and I really liked that. Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell's chemistry was really good in the movie as well, and I always love the two of them on screen together. I love the movie The Other Guys from 2010, and in the first Daddy's Home, their chemistry really shined as well, even though they were at odds with each other. Any scene that they shared together was probably going to have at least a couple chuckles here and there. In this movie, the two of them are talented, but the problem is that their characters are not nearly as well developed as they were in the first movie. In the first Daddy's Home, you can be like, oh, it's going to be like a throwaway comedy, but I do think that in the first Daddy's Home, these two were more characters. They were people who, Mark Wahlberg's character, for instance, was this kind of like, rougher guy who was like, oh, we're going to show the family how to have fun and everything like that, but you understand why he's doing that. He feels a little bit insecure that he isn't the main dad all the time, and Will Ferrell is like, all right, no, we need to get rid of Dusty and everything, because he feels insecure about some things in his own life too, and he wants to really be the one that's protecting his family. And those felt like real things that real people in real life experience. In this movie, Mark Wahlberg's a rough guy, and that's all he is. He's kind of a caricature. And in this movie, Will Ferrell's a dork, and he's kind of a caricature, and that's all he is. There's no real layers to the characters, and you have a ton more characters in the movie, so I understand why you aren't going to go as deep into each specific one, but the depth of the characters is what made the first movie so funny. You could understand where they were coming from, why they would do certain things in certain scenes. That being said, other characters in the movies turned into caricatures as well. Linda Cardellini's character, for instance, she was kind of like the mediator between Mark Wahlberg and Will Ferrell in the first movie. In this movie, she's just kind of jealous of Mark Wahlberg's new wife, and you just see that through the entire movie. You're like, wait a second, if you're with Will Ferrell, why would you be jealous of the new wife? I mean, obviously it's a thing that happens in real life. Like, obviously you're gonna be jealous of, like, your ex's, like, new love interest. But in the movie, like, it's just her entire character is centered around that, and you're like, you don't stand for anything besides that. The kids are all these whiny little caricatures. In the first movie, they were not. They were actually kind of cute little people running around doing their own thing and having these little subplots. In this movie, not really. Mark Wahlberg's dad, played by Mel Gibson, is another caricature. He's just the guy that comes in and is just kind of like chaos. He's this cynical, like, kind of crabby person that you're like, you're just a mean-spirited person. I don't like you. That's why I like John Lithgow and Will Ferrell's chemistry, is because even though Will Ferrell was just kind of like dorky and happy all the time, John Lithgow also being dorky and happy made the two of them seem funny because they would just play off each other with dorkiness and happiness all the time. It felt like having more of that was great. But with Mel Gibson just being kind of cynical and mean-spirited, and Mark Wahlberg being kind of cynical and mean-spirited, the two of them like repelled each other, and I'm like, not that enjoyable to watch. Although, here's what I say. I can forgive character flaws, I can forgive plot flaws if the movie makes me laugh. And did this movie make me laugh? Not really. I had a few chuckles here and there. There were a few good lines, especially towards the end of the movie, that I really liked. But overall, guys, it really the humor didn't work for me. In the first movie, again, I'm going to keep comparing them. The humor felt smart, felt original. There were some one-liners that really worked because they were playing off of who these characters were and establishing them through their humor and like kind of what style of humor that they used. In this movie, the entire thing, I swear to God, felt like it was just physical humor. And by that I mean characters aren't like saying funny lines to each other. In the first movie, funny lines are what really highlighted the humor of that movie. In this movie, the first joke is Will Ferrell just getting hit in the face twice. Those are the first two jokes in the movie, and then him crashing his car, and that's the next joke. It's almost like people said, oh, we really like that scene in the first movie where Will Ferrell hits a cheerleader for the Lakers in the head with a basketball, so we're going to make that the entire second movie. And that's basically the premise of this movie. Is that like, oh, Will Ferrell gets electrocuted again, and you're like, uh-oh, Will Ferrell's getting burned by hot chocolate on his chest again, and uh-oh, like Mark Wahlberg's getting hit by this, and Mel Gibson's getting hit by this, and then John Lithgow's getting hit by this, and everybody just being like hit by things or like being like run through the dirt by things, and I'm like, at a point, I'm just like, these are just things happening on screen that aren't really that entertaining. The best part, the thing that can make physical humor work is if it's kind of left up to the imagination. In the first Daddy's Home, there's a great example of this, because in the first Daddy's Home, what happened is Will Ferrell says a line like, oh, I can totally ride a motorcycle, and then he like gets on to ride the motorcycle, and he goes like through the house, but you just see the house on the outside, and you hear like noises inside the house, and you're like, oh my god, I can't even imagine what's happening there, it's probably crazy and everything, and then the motorcycle flies through the front of the house again, and you're like, oh man, and then you're just like, you think it's so funny because again, you're imagining what's happening, and the physical humor is kind of off screen. It's just left up to your imagination, and that's what makes it so funny, is that you're kind of filling in the blanks on your own. In this movie, they just show you stuff that happens, and you're like, again, it's kind of like, just visual noise, it's just stuff that's happening to characters, and you're like, shouldn't you be injured or dead by now or something? It just makes no sense. And I didn't really like that because, again, it's not left up to your imagination. It just felt very dumb the entire way through. Mel Gibson's character being super cynical and being super mean the entire time, he would laugh whenever one of these characters like got injured, and I'd be like, if you're the worst character in the movie and we're supposed to hate you, then why would we laugh when you laugh? That would just make me feel like a bad person. It just didn't really make all that much sense, guys. I think the humor didn't work for the movie. I felt like every scene was just set up for one joke, and then after that one joke, you'd move on to a new scene where it'd be set up for one joke, that joke would happen, you move on to the next scene. It didn't feel like it was a connective tissue of a movie. It felt like it was just a bunch of isolated setups for jokes and sketches, and I felt like some of them did work, some of them I did chuckle during, but overall, the characters weren't as deep as they were in the first one. I felt like there was no real kind of message to leave the movie with, whereas the first one did have that, and even I felt like there wasn't a great conclusion to the movie. I mean, there were some things that were tied up in nice ways. The ending in particular, this one scene in the movie theater, I thought was pretty good, but it was a movie that I just thought was a disposable sequel to a movie that I actually did enjoy, having just seen it like for the first time recently. So guys, I'm going to give Daddy's Home 2 a D+. I'm not going to recommend you go check it out at all. Watch the first Daddy's Home though, it's on Hulu and Amazon, and I think it's pretty good. I guess you guys kind of got my review for that in here as well, so 2 for the price of 1. Those are just my thoughts though. Again, be sure to leave yours in the comment section down below. You guys can follow me on Twitter at JohnMHayeck. Go over to my movie thoughts, comment, subscribe to this YouTube channel for tons more posts from me as well. Links to all 3 of those are in the description down below. You guys can also like this video, comment on it, share it with some friends. I am John Hayeck, and as always, thank you guys so much for watching.